Gaming NBS episode 186 coming to you Wednesday, April 11th, 2018. Welcome to Gaming NBS, a tabletop RPG podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show. Welcome back, folks. How you doing, Sean?
Doing okay.
That's good. That's very good.
How are you doing, Brett?
Not too bad. This is a pretty relaxing weekend. I had the opportunity to, kind of use this to slip into announcements here. I got some really good guidance from Chris Nizak and Sean Merwin from Coded Designs around next steps for my Avalon Kickstarter preparation. Oh. So I spent yesterday and today cranking out, 4,000 words or so. Just, I don't know if that's. I have no idea if that's good output or not. I have no idea. I don't write and count words that often. I just counted words to see what would happen. But anyway,
it's more than 5.
That's totally more than 5.
Totally.
And as an English and philosophy major, we all know I suck at math. So, anyway, it was a lot of fun to work on that stuff. So, I think every 1,000 words or so, it's one step closer. So, it's all getting there. Working.
And then afterwards, you could be a resident expert.
Yeah,
you could do one thing, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know all about this."
Oh yeah, I did a Kickstarter once. Let me tell you how it works, kids, from the inside perspective.
That's right.
Yeah, I did it once.
That's right.
That's why it's funny. Sometimes it's just Midwest self-deprecation. We're like, I'm not a writer. I'm not really a designer, and those titles are interesting to me to a point, but this is just a thing I'm really passionate about. I want to do, and me putting the sweat equity into the typing the words is totally fine because it's in my head anyway. It's faster and easier this way. So anyhow, I'm liking it. It's kind of fun.
It's great, Brett.
So other announcement: how is the listener survey doing? We're ending it this coming Sunday. This drops on the 11th, and you'll have 4 days after that because on the 15th we cut it.
Yeah. As of right now, we have over 90. We have 93 responses.
Anything good? Anything like, "Hey, tell that Brett guy to shut the fuck up"? Anything like that? Maybe.
Nothing as blatantly open as that.
Oh, they were nice about it.
Yeah, quite a lot of niceties. I think I've shared this I think the most constructive feedback that has come forward, which is not a huge surprise, is some people have mentioned my lack of engagement or my checked outedness on occasion. Yep. But they said that Ewok needs more airtime. I think there was a comment in there.
Oh,
yep.
Christ, yeah, Wayne Ewok hasn't been out in a while.
Yep. Sometimes there's a little dancing around the topic at hand, digging into more specific issues. So there's a couple comments I think that came in more recently about
some tuning.
Some tuning, yes, fine tuning. I think that's the worst of it, is like more of a tweak here or there, nothing catastrophic.
Well, that's cool. Once we have it, obviously I want to see it. I haven't seen any of this yet, folks. So
yeah, Brett hasn't seen any of it.
No, so I'm assuming Sean will. Again, you're the Kelly. There'll be a lot of criticism for Brett, but Sean will be golden. It'll be awesome. Look at that.
Export the spreadsheet and manipulate the findings.
Yes.
Brett needs not to. Oh,
Wow,
it's really weird. It's all Brett.
That's a long list of shit I can't do right. That's great. Wow, allow me to pour another bourbon and finish the rest of this.
Yeah.
Why won't they love me?
So thank you, everybody that's taken the time to answer the 10 questions. I think were complete. Appreciate it.
Well, Sean, as you said, I mean, it's one of those things where you send a survey out and you're basically hitting the listeners, right? The people who already most likely engage with us on a regular basis. Sometimes, I'm sure, we're getting people who haven't written in, haven't called, emailed, anything like that.
That'd be correct.
But I believe that our listeners are some pretty sharp men and women, and when the boys and girls write in and say, "Hey, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'd like to hear," or whatever, if they've stuck with us this long, or even if they just came in, those opinions matter. We'll do what we can to adjust things. Obviously, kind of the core of who Sean and Brett are isn't going to change much. We're of an age where it's going to be hard to change absolute personalities. But hey, if we can make the show better by dint of listening to what you folks have to say, I'm all for it.
Well, there's one that I just read. This must have came in last. I want to read this.
Go for it.
It says, love the show, guys. Great stuff. I really dig the topics and BS. I will make one comment. Had a DCC friend listen to the Jen Brinkman episode. He was a bit off-put with Sean's comment about punching her in the face, which probably wasn't exactly said that way, but there was a lot of face punch threats. So I could see there may have been some confusion. I took it as weirdly funny and your rough and tumble charm, but just thought I'd pass it on since it was perceived as negative by a potential listener. Keep up the great show and doing you.
Huh.
I will have to go back and listen to that show.
I know we have often used the term punch the bad guy in the face.
Right, punching the character, smashing him in the face.
Yeah, because we'll have those players, and even ourselves, we've talked about sometimes, when you're playing the fighter, and Fightor doesn't want to punch anything in the face. You're like, come on, man, you're a fighter. Get in there. Smash the bad guy. So if that's good feedback, though, because the last thing we want to do is say something horribly off-putting. I mean, I cuss and swear plenty, so at least...
Well, and I think you have to listen to us more than one show sometimes, because if you listen to one show and you come across something that's not overly cool, it's kind of maybe it's not the most gracious first impression we make.
That's possible.
But it's possible, and lo and behold, how we should or shouldn't tell somebody how to feel. But I would never want to punch Jen Brinkman in the face by any means.
Oh God, no! Jen's awesome.
Now, I have used the phrase. So Dave Jackson,
Sean, just for the record, Sean has wanted to punch me in the face before, and that's fine. That's fine.
That's true. Now, Dave Jackson, School of Podcasting, I listened to, and he had a listener on, and I forgot that listener and who it was, but what they were saying was when you launch a podcast, you should do it, right? That's one thing that people don't do is they get afraid or they have reservations, that everything's got to be perfect. And they kind of like paralysis analysis. And one of the guys that's a listener of the show called in or had as a guest and said, nobody is going to punch you in the face. Right? That's kind of the saying, like, hey, just do it. Nobody's going to punch you in the face, so you don't have a fear about that. That's kind of the thing. And I've used that on the show. Like, hey, just like running a game. Just run a game. I assure you, nobody's going to punch you in the face.
So kind of turn of phrase, figure of speech.
Yes, and so I don't know if I used that in the Jen Brinkman episode, but and frankly, if they just tuned into that just to listen to Jen on the show, which because they're a DCC fan, that may have been it.
Could have been.
So yeah, hopefully that's contextually. We talk about punching people in the face. We don't mean it.
No, we don't.
We don't mean half the shit we talk about on this goddamn show.
No, well, obviously, I seriously don't like shoot one across the bow at my players. Literally, that would be a little. Probably have certain police officers at my door at that point.
There's people that don't like watching Jackass, the movie, Jackass, the TV show when it was on. Maybe that's similar to our sometimes childish antics.
It could be.
Maybe. Like I said, some podcasts are not for everybody. It could be just interest, entertaining. Some people think we try too hard to be funny.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, the thing is that type of information when you ask for criticism, you're going to
accept it.
You got to accept it. Excuse me, we're going to hear somebody who says, hey, I don't like this thing that Brett does. I don't like the phrase that Sean used, or I think you're trying too hard to do X. And that may mean that, look, if you don't change it, Brett and Sean, I can't keep listening to you. Absolutely legit. I bear no ill will to anybody, so not for that. Not for something as foolish as
that.
So
the lesson here is thank you so much for sharing the info, because we can't do anything about it if we don't know about it. And I have a feeling that some people just don't care for us, and that's okay. They just don't listen to us, and that's cool and dandy. It can't satisfy the whole. I mean, TV shows or Game of Thrones gets millions of viewers. There's other viewers that don't watch it.
I don't.
Right. Brett's one of them. See.
There you go.
Brett's the one viewer in America that doesn't.
One viewer in America doesn't watch that or Walking Dead. That's just me.
Right, there you go. So, anyways, thank you all for the feedback. Thank you for being as candid as you feel or you are and have been. That's the listener survey, so let's put that to bed.
Yes, sir.
right.
We'll talk about it again. So anyway, the other piece I want to mention is the Gamehole Con. Registration is open, and by registration I should mean game submission. Registration is a bad term. Submissions. Retyping notes right now as I speak. Submissions for events. So we've had a number of folks on the Twitters and G Plus to say, "Hey, I've set up some games I'm going to run under the Gaming BS banner," which is fucking awesome. Now Sean and I have to get off our asses and do it ourselves. I've got 2 that I'm going to be running. One will be an Avalon game, and another one will be a Gumshoe game. I'm trying to decide if I'm probably Trail of Cthulhu. I'll get those 2 written up and submitted. I think before the end of the day today, I'll get that done. Sean, have you picked what you're going to run, or
No, not yet.
Any ideas? Forget about it. Forget about it's a hit.
Forget about it is always a go-to because I just know it well enough to throw them down and make it happen. But I don't know. Maybe that's that and something else. Who knows?
I'll tell you what. If you do forget about it, I'll talk to Dan. You know Dan M, the guy who's working for me right now, car guy. I'm gonna see if I can get you a steering wheel.
Oh, jeez.
We gotta get you a steering wheel prop. That's what we got.
Well, there's a few things that I could use for that game to like make it just a little bit cooler for con play. So.
Yeah, we gotta amp that up for you.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Anything else? I don't think so.
No.
Let's punch it into random encounter.
Yeah. Right. Got a few this week.
Ooh, got some good ones. Do you want to start? I'll let you start.
All right. Email from Thomas Hook. Howdy, BSers. Just a note to let you know how much I've enjoyed the last few shows. I did want to comment on episodes 183 and 185 as they kind of go together. So in narrative permissions, as well as in 185, which was the last show, we talked about, what was 185? Oh, rolling, not rolling, right?
Yes.
I agree that it helps.
Oh, 185. Excuse me. 185 is the volume of skill checks allowed. Everybody piling in, piling on top. So
Right.
Sorry, lost my mind.
I agree that it helps not to require a roll on all things. I often reward the players for creative thinking and/or having spent lots of points in one skill or another because of the player's concept for his PC. This being said, I also think it's important to have some rolls for the non-critical checks, or a pattern will develop where the players will be like, "Oh crap, we got a roll? It must be super important. He only has us roll if it's bad." I work hard to keep patterns from developing from adventure to adventure, which is a very good point.
That is a very good point. I hadn't even thought about that. It's one of those things that when someone, when a listener like that, when Tom's like, "Hey, this is a thing," I'm like, "Oh shit, no, damn, why didn't we think about that?" That's a very good point.
Yeah. So what he's saying is make sure you mix up the check calls, I guess. Calls for checks if you're having them do it. Brett mentioned how some adventures will have Easter eggs hidden in odd places to reward creative looking or thinking. As a member of the 50 and over gamer crowd, throat clear, that reminds me, I hope you had a happy birthday, Brett.
I did. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I agree with Brett when he speaks of the older adventures seeming to be set up as if the players weren't supposed to find the items hidden. Sometimes it seemed as if the writer wanted you to know just how clever they were, but you never really found out how smart the author was because you never found the shit. Go figure.
That's a good point.
Touche. In one adventure, I'll never forget how disappointed I was as a newer player to find out just how much stuff we didn't find. Hidden treasure, secret doors, and odd little twists that the module never even hinted at. As a group, we did complete the main quest of that adventure with a positive ending, but when the DM went back and told us what all we missed, almost as a gloat, it was pretty disheartening. Yeah, advice, don't ever divulge it.
Don't gloat. Jesus.
Don't gloat and just, I don't know if I would even divulge it.
Not immediately after. It might be like a campaign or two later, or sometime over beer or coffee or lunch someday. But I'd let that dust settle for a bit before you tell people, boy, you could have totally found a Holy Avenger if only you'd looked underneath the sofa. That could be a kick in the shorts.
With that lesson learned, I always try and make sure the players get hints or information as to where and how something was found, such as the player saying, "I searched the desk." I might say, "Hidden on the bottom of a drawer, you find a map." Not just say, "You found a map." That's a good point. Doing this, I hope to get the players into a mode of, "Oh, this guy's sneaky." We have all seen or read the mystery where the main detective walks straight over to a wall and removes the only painting hiding the safe, or that has the secret plans taped to the back of the picture. But how often, as everyday people, do we think of this stuff? So in describing the way items were found, it may help the players be more creative. So when the PC opens the door and sees nothing of interest and then proceeds to shut the door, I'm all for going. As you shut the door, you notice that one of the paintings is hanging a little askew. Especially if the item is important to the main quest, or I may just place it in the next room that they do search. I will often give subtle hints while the players are dealing with someone else, like combat. Mo, while you run down the hall with 3 trolls in hot pursuit, you catch glimpse of odd scratches on the floor. Obviously, the player won't take time to stop and look with the trolls breathing down his neck, but I find crafty players will go back later, investigate the clue after the crisis is over. I have had a player actually travel back up 2 floors of a dungeon a week later to investigate a clue that he only remembered when he got home after the game that night. As far as the roll to check train goes, with all the sleeping players wanting to pile on all of a sudden, I usually let them roll, and if it's not a critical item to the adventure, I most often stick with the first roll, and if it's sucked, oh well. Now I will allow players to aid one another, but only if it is stated as aid or help. Curly states he will check the desk, and then Larry says, oh, I'll help Curly with the desk if I can. If I use a roll, I will give them the aid other +2 for whichever one wants to make the check. I did play with a group of younger players for a while. When I say younger, I mean in ages from 20 to about 30. Their system was you kept what you found, so the check roll was very important to them. The DM never put pre-rolled treasure on NPCs or hiding around the room. She had a system of the better the roll, the better stuff you found. Once someone said they were checking a body or an area, that was it. No one else could come behind and recheck just because the first player had a poor roll. Well, have babbled on long enough, so until next time, keep the dice warm and the beer cold. Thomas from Beholder's Horde.
Nice. Thank you, Thomas. That was good stuff, man.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas.
You know, when we talked about adversarial DMs a while back, and I know it was kind of a when you see it type of thing, but I'll tell you, gloating, not so good. Don't gloat.
Yeah.
That's bad. But I do like the rest of the descriptors and other pieces Thomas had in there, so that's really good stuff, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so next up is an email from Michael Fisk. Michael starts off, hi, guys. Great podcast as usual. Good discussion regarding skill checks. As a DM, I can relate to all the points you brought up and have been in similar situations. Don't forget that D&D 5e has a couple of additional ways to handle skill checks where everyone wants to pile on the skill check, besides passive checks. Working together and group skill checks are your friendly rules for these situations. Can you even use a similar resolution system in other games? Working together, one player makes a skill check, and then the helper, hey, I want to pick the lock 2, provides advantage to the lead checker. It's a great rule, as the party still just sticks with, at most, 2 dice rolls from any one player. Excuse me, the player wants to make the check, usually the character built with the highest skills, so you're rewarding the character design choices. The Me Too player still feels like they help because they provided advantage. This works great in a number of situations. It keeps it fast with a minimum of discussion, and make the check and move on. Group skill checks, everybody rolls. Rolling dice is fun, but at least half the party needs to succeed for the check to pass. Everyone wants to make a perception check for that ambush or stealth check to sneak past the guards. Okay, everyone rolls. But if you don't pass, everyone fails. Works great in a lot of situations, especially when you as a DM want to ramp up the tension as some players fail their skill checks, say like climbing a mountain cliff during a storm. Keep up the good work and happy gaming. DM Mike. You know, Mike, that last bit you have there, I have never thought to use that, and I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah, when you say everyone make a roll and half of you have to succeed. And for group skill checks, I don't know why, that has never dawned on me. That seems, light shine, holy shit, why haven't I not thought about that? Because that would work.
You were going to say about the, if somebody fails, like sneaking across.
No, that's fun. It's fun to make people fail. Watching failure is hilarious, especially when it's other people. But the whole idea of everybody roll, especially for group things, that's what led me to the piece was in my Warhammer game I'm running when the guys said, oh, can I check? What I should do based on this idea, which I like, is everybody roll. How many people got successes out of 6 of you. Only 2. Okay, everything's fine. Oh, 3 of you. Good. Everything's fine. Or
Right.
whatever, however you use your descriptors. But point being is have a set number of people who need to succeed. I like that. I don't know why I never thought of that. God damn, I'm sure I've been told that before, and I just have not used it. Not in recent
crazy.
memory. It's good stuff.
Crazy.
Thank you, Mike. I'm using that.
Yeah, Mike.
Over to you, sir.
Brandon Teal shares with us a tweet he saw from @PinkDiceGM on Twitter, who writes, Brett and Sean, I ran across this on Facebook. So it was a tweet on Facebook, or from Twitter on Facebook, and thought you might like it as an interesting role-playing device for your players. I immediately thought of how interesting and slightly out of hand this would get with the old Wausau gaming group. Cheers, Brandon. So
Brandon's one of my gamers from ages back in my Wausau group, so that's cool.
So Pink Dice GM in a tweet says, in recent games, I require players to write 5 rumors related to their character's reputation. 2 good, 2 bad, 1 false. I later pass these out to other players as things their PC would have overheard. It spawns early roleplay. That is pretty freaking cool.
I love that because then I get to say what it is, right? So I, as a player, I'm writing that down. I've got control of what the information is: the good, the bad, and the false. And then sprinkling that across, especially if you all meet in a tavern, or you think about how cool that would be. You know, you all sit down at the tavern. You've not met before, but I've heard about you, Thalmar the Wicked. Whoa, who calls you Thalmar the Wicked? Well, that's what they call you back in Coram Town or whatever. Oh, you heard about that, you know. Having those pieces, then the players may not know which rumor's been handed out to whom. So, I like that. That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for sharing that, Brandon.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Blake Ryan emailed us on episode 185 as well. Good day, fellas. Some GMs do all the perception searching roles for their groups. This is not exciting for players, but does cut down on metagaming. Some GMs get players to do 3 to 5 perception rolls at the start and then mark them off as required. Have you ever done that, Sean? Have you heard of that before?
I've known about the pre-rolls, but I've never done it.
I've never done it. I had a buddy of mine who would do that often, but that's cool. Okay, sorry, here he goes on. Blake continues with, what I do when someone says they're going to search, I ask the group who's searching and who's doing something else. If the heroes need to find the information, remember there is more than one way to get that to them. You know what? Hang on, we're going to stop there for a second. I think what Blake did there in the what I do when someone says they're going to search, I ask the group who is searching and who is doing something else. That is a wonderful preemptive strike. Okay, you roll, you fail. And that preemptive question stops you. Well, I would have been looking too. I always have one eye on the thief. I always pay attention. That completely preempts that. Okay, Sean's going to look. Is, Chris, Ange, Eileen, what are you guys doing? Oh, I'm looking here. I'm going to help Sean. Okay, good. Everybody stated their intent, and then you carry on. You don't have to worry about the piling on because you take care of it with that preemptive question. I like that. That's really good. So, he continues. If the heroes need to find the information, remember there's more than one way to get that to them. They find writing in pieces, scattered by location or by participants of the plot. They can hear rumors, some half true, some not. They have a dream, either shared or prophetic. They can have a flashback, something they'd forgotten. They can see a reflection of something in a window that deciphers a symbol. Excuse me. They can meet someone who is knowledgeable in the area but needs protection from X, Y, and Z cults. They can find writing in another language later on in the campaign. They can be laying down to rest a month later and reviewing what happened, and they go, damn, I missed something. Let's go back. I could see that happening because I do that myself. If it's any item they could use in the boss battle or even a battle later in the campaign, the GM can take them out of the secret wall nation, stick it in the hands of minions, and attack the heroes sometime. For a twist on the minions, or could offer up to the PCs as a truce because they want out of the area. If someone likes to search a lot, I will throw them a few trinkets, like a first aid kit, alchemist fire, bag of euphoric herbs, whatever. For the record, I think Brett is a skilled GM and a great guy, but most episodes I agree with Sean. I'm also too far away from Brett to shoot. That's all right, Blake. I'll let you live.
Voice of rationality.
Yes,
Blake.
That is. He mentions a thing there for a twist. On minions could offer it, i.e., the item, to the PCs for a truce because they want out of the area. I have occasionally done that when sorting through a module looking for something, or you got this really cool encounter in mind, and the player's just laying waste, and, pick on goblins because they're small and weak, or kobolds, and they get down on their knees, they're big for quarter, and they just start throwing treasure at the party. I had a group of kobolds one time, like, hurling bags of coins at the party, and my players were like, what is this? No one spoke kobold. The kobolds are like throwing stuff. They drop their weapons, like emptying their pockets and flinging gold at them. Just say, go away, go away, go away. Here's some money. Let us live. Which made for a very entertaining half hour there. So anyway, cool. And I like you, Blake, even though you agree with Sean.
Hey, it's all right, Brett. It's all good. All right, let's get into the main topic. Thanks for everybody writing in. Appreciate it. Alrighty then.
So in the spirit of limits, we've been talking about how many skill checks are too many? Who should do this? What's going on? What's happening over there? I was thinking about that kind of in that same vein, and one of the things that Sean and I have thrown off kind of offhandedly on other topics was the idea about limits, just overall limits in games. So I wanted to focus a little bit more on that piece because I think it's really easy for Sean and I to say, oh yeah, in X situation, it's really good to limit those options. Really good to limit those options. But I wonder how far or when that type of limitation becomes a hindrance more than a help.
Oh.
So let's dive in. Excuse me, damn it. So one of the things that I've talked about here on the show before, and Sean has as well, is things we usually like to limit, or we want to draw a box around, if you will, and say nothing outside of here for the sake of X. So one of the pieces that we've talked about is rule systems. When we talk about games with Splatbook hell, when you've got 6,000 different versions of GURPS, AD&D 2nd Edition, Splatbooks, Pathfinder, anything that has tons and tons of those. Sometimes it's nice to say, look, only a couple expansion books, just the Pathfinder core rules, nothing extra. I like doing that because then it gives everybody the same sandbox to play in as far as what rules are available and what classes and characters and races. It kind of helps to keep that stuff confined. Also, if you're playing a game with feats or special powers, then if you're making a superhero game, doesn't pick some bizarre power that no one else has access to because they don't own the rule book. If everyone in the group has access to the core rules, it seems to make it easier. I think when we've talked about that before, Sean, that's something you like to do or try to do. Is that still true for you?
To limit that?
Yeah, limit the number of books.
Yeah. I try to keep it to most of the times when I'm dealing with games. If there are third-party publishers that can contribute to that system or game, I usually try to limit it to the core, whatever.
Yeah.
Pathfinder example. There's a lot of splat books, but there's even third-party books.
Oh yeah, you can get stuff from Kobold Press, from Midgard stuff that's Pathfinder accessible, or all sorts of stuff out there that could be thrown in that mix.
So I take one of two stances. One is keep it at its core, whatever they may be. Core, it could be core rulebooks. It could be core to the publisher. Like if it is a Pathfinder game supplement, then fine. The trick is that you have to provide it, right? So you have to have it.
So if I want to use it and you say, let me see it, you, if Game Master, would say, I want to look that thing over, buddy, so I understand it.
Right. Yeah, bring it to the table, bring it to your game, if it's virtual, and, that's what I would do. Or, those are the two I would take. And if it's third party.
Yeah.
And if it's third party, and I say, okay, that's fine, bring third party, but you got to have it and own it.
The other thing I would say to pile onto that, too, is that I use the example of Sean as Game Master, Brett brings the rules to him. I would say almost perhaps a requirement would be to let everyone in the group see it. One of the reasons being is like my buddy Alpha is a really good rules lawyer. I've said that before on the show. If I say, hey, I want to do this, and I get it by Lenny, who's running the game, it would actually behoove me to let Alpha take a look at it as well, and behoove Lenny to make sure that it's not too crazy, too weird. It's kind of that balance component, right? Sometimes balance matters. At least it seems to matter more to me during character generation than it does at other times during the actual adventure. Like, having something that is some character class that seems wildly overpowered for everybody starting at first level, or it just doesn't seem to fit, or something along those lines. If you only bounce it off of one person at the table, you might not get the same read. Even if the person happens to be the game master, it might be a good idea to let other people have access to it. Because if you can do it, everybody else at the table can do it too.
So I have to have you clarify something for me, Brett.
What's that?
So you don't believe typically in game balance?
Not typically, no.
So as a game master, you're kind of like, hey man, here's a lich. I'm throwing you, whatever, CR20 monster, whatever a lich is.
Yeah, sucks to be your second level. Hope you don't fight him.
Right, don't fight him, right?
Yeah.
But when the players come up with like a weird rule that they might have gotten from a third-party publisher, or maybe just in core, or whatever book,
I want to make
sure. Well, wait a minute.
I want to make sure that is available to everybody. What I'm saying is that if Sean brings up the Ultimate Omega Paladin from, Brett and Sean Press, like, oh my God, these paladins, oh my God, these paladins. If that is only available to Sean because he happened to have found the Ultimate Omega Paladin book and not available to anybody else,
right?
That is when maybe not balance, but maybe like accessibility would be a better phrase. I want it to be available to everybody.
I see.
If you've got a really cool rule for...
You don't give a shit if it's powered in a particular way.
The only way I would is that if it comes to setting, which is the other piece, is that I try to make sure that the setting, the genre, the world, the way it's set up, is like in my World of Avalon, if I were to run with Pathfinder, oracles don't play there. It doesn't fit,
Okay.
Summoner doesn't really fit. So I would say, no, those class options where someone would say, hey, I want to play Dragonborn. Sorry, don't exist. Move on. But if someone were to say, hey, there's a really cool extra feat for rangers to use out of this book, as long as everybody who ever wanted to be a ranger could have access to that feat, and it fits the rule, the genre, so on, yeah, give it a go.
And you don't mind if it's maybe on the verge of being overpowered?
Not usually, no.
Oh, hey, if you're part of the Wausau Gaming Group and this seems a little strange to you and new to you after having played with Brett over 10, 15, 20 years, please email gaminginbs@gmail.com.
And call him out.
To clarify that this may be a new rule for you in your game.
I will say that when we have played new rules, like when I ran Lamentations of the Flame Princess, I told the guys, look, I want to run the game as it's written as much as we can.
Yeah.
So let's all make characters the same way. Let's all do it this way. Everyone went, yep, sure, let's give it a go. Let's give it a shot. We did the same thing with my Warhammer game. We sat down and said, hey, we're going to run characters. Are we going to do it? Can you make them without rolling in random charts? Absolutely. But we're not going to do that. We agreed we're going to go for it, get the full random chart character gen experience. So that's what we did. You could say, no, I want to, but somebody else says, I want to make it, I just want to make a Troll Slayer. I don't want to fuck around possibly ending up with a Rat Catcher dwarf first. I want to go right to Troll Slayer. Well, as long as everybody at the table has the same access to saying, look, you can either roll on the charts to make your character randomly or pick a profession. As long as everybody had the same option, then if somebody picked something that was overly optimized, well, good for them. But that is not usually a deal breaker for me. At least I don't remember it ever being such.
I see. But most of the stuff that you're talking about is specific to setting feel.
Yeah, the setting, the world usually is the bumpers that everything else kind of needs to stay within. That it feels like it fits. If it fits, then it works.
Gotcha. I could understand that.
So I think that kind of goes into the other, why would I limit it? It's fitment, right? If it doesn't fit the genre and so on. Now, I do know, while I am not necessarily, like I could give a shit about balance for the most part, there are, excuse me, some people who are really, really good at min-maxing, and other people who just suck at it. You know, I knew guys who like to make Pathfinder characters. We play Pathfinder, and one of my friends just liked to use the core rules. That's what he knew, and he could make characters like that. I had another guy who liked to use every fucking splat book he could get his hands on, cherry pick his way through, and have the undefeatable monk. It was, you know, he could make an amazingly powerful character. And one of the reasons we would limit things down was because that wasn't accessible to everybody. Not everybody had access to all the different splat books. It didn't come down to, let me think about this. So I think what happens is then by dint of limiting the books, because not everybody had access to them all, it made things more from a player's perspective, making their characters seem more balanced insofar as that if you were a really good min-maxer, you could do it with, you know, the core rules of whatever the system was. Or at least then, how am I going to say this? So you could still min-max the hell out of it. You would just be stuck using the same options and features that everybody else was. So you could still min-max and optimize to your heart's content, but you're not going to use things that are outside. Does that make sense? I think I just said the same thing like 6 times. That's probably what I did.
Yeah, I think so.
Is there anything else that you limit if you're going to make a game? Or not make a game. If you're going to set something up, like if you were playing, what's that spy game in the Cold War?
Cold Shadows?
Cold Shadows. So if you're running Cold Shadows, and I say, I want to be, you know, a World War II, you know, Nazi guy. That's what I want to be. I want to be like a guy who escaped from World War II, but he's a Nazi, and he's this, that. Would you be like, yeah, that totally fits? Or would you be like, well, that's not really. I want to be James Bond. Can I be James Bond?
Well, it's not that game.
Well, but it's the kind of spy I want, man.
It's not that game, though. That'd be like saying, dude, I want laser beams and guns in D&D. Some DMs are like, all right, man, sweet. And then some are like, what?
Expedition to Barrier Peaks.
Get that shit out of here.
So you're a genre guy then, too. It needs to be.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, if it was an espionage game like Spycraft, maybe, because they can get, you know, espionage is unique because you can play James Bond, you can play Cold War, you can play with gadgets and weapons and you know, that typical stuff, but you got to set that up front, like that's the type of game you're going to play or you're going to want to kind of facilitate. And if a player is on the, I mean, someone could say, well, I'm going to be Austin Powers.
Yeah, I've got the Cold Shadows Austin Powers splat book.
Yeah, baby.
And you'd be like,
Shagadelic.
What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, not what I'm running. Man from U.N.C.L.E. maybe, James Bond, you know, maybe it's the Kingsman. You know, it could be a combination of those, but that's got to be up front. And that's a no-brainer for some of the modern, right? Like especially espionage. You got to put that in a box. And so one could say the same for fantasy too. Like, is it high magic, low magic?
Yep, put your genre, put your setting, box it out so people understand the parameters, right? What they can bounce off of.
Yeah.
Now, interesting. So that seems pretty cut and dried and so forth. And we've talked about different ways to creatively, ages back, can't even remember what episode, creative use of spells and creative use of items and skills and so on. And some of this comes down to, in my opinion, possibly it's the player/character agency or creativity. Are there limitations, perhaps house rules, that you would want to... Is that another thing, the creativity and agency aspects of it, are there pieces of that you want to have limitations around?
Agency and what else?
Creativity.
Like,
look, I'm going to use this spider climb spell in order to help my thief mage get a bonus on picking pockets. I've got a dragon magazine that says I can.
So so I think if you're playing in a public forum and you're running a game and you're open to anybody joining, you're going to run into folks that are going to do some things that you might think is a little bit wacky.
Yeah. Well, even with your home group, somebody's going to say, hey,
Well, my home group, I can go, dude, are you freaking serious? Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Oh, you can call bullshit wham without fear of repercussions because I've known this guy. I've known that asshole for 20 years.
And just for the record, I would not punch them in the face.
No, you would not.
I would not. I don't want to punch anybody in the face.
Except me after the show.
Monsters,
yes.
Punch them fuckers in the face. I would... You know, I've had some things happen on those. Some of them aren't bad. Like, they're not gonzo. Although they may screw up the game group, right? They got a plan. The one person foils the plan by doing something ridiculous outside the plan. But as far as I don't want to limit somebody. And sometimes it's a gel thing. I think sometimes so. I'm kind of all over the place on this one.
Well,
Brett,
let me give you a second to think.
Hold on,
all right, keep going.
So I think the thing is that you're going to get the one person who tries to take something way too far. You know, it's like the action economy, where they're like, okay, I run across the room, I cast a spell, and then I turn around and I backstab them. And I'm like, whoa, they're a partner. Let's figure this out first. You know, it's talking through that, understanding how it makes sense. And then somebody's going to be like, how does this not make sense? Like, we're in a world with elves and dragons and spells and magic. So, come on, man. You know, you got to let reality go a little bit, which is true, but I think it's what some people may say the spirit of the game. So I wouldn't want to limit somebody by doing something creative necessarily, because I think if you do that, you're really setting up your group for failure. Because then they're going to, I mean, not that it would say nobody would come up with anything creative, but there's always going to be one person that may be just a little bit too creative.
Yeah, it's kind of like as we learned from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, I need to do it in my own idiom. If you've got somebody, I think if it fits, and this maybe it goes back to setting and the genre we're talking about, right? So we're playing Cold Shadows, and we're in it, we're doing fine, and I want to rig up some James Bondian type of gadgetry, and the answer is no. Or what are you trying to do? What? No, that doesn't fit. Yeah, that type of thing. You know, cars that suddenly can fly and go underwater. That's not a thing that's in this world. Yeah, but I've got the money, I got the technology. How come I can't be really? It's really a creative solution. No, yeah, we really, kind of boxing that in. Is that where you're going?
Cold Shadows is a bad example because it doesn't have any of that shit in it. It just doesn't. It's not in the game. You're not gonna. There isn't a queue section where they're going to give you a Lotus and allow you to squirt oil out the back and smoke screen and
that game sounds boring.
Machine guns. Well, to some people it may be just fucking boring.
Well, I'm using let's take the genre as opposed to the game then. Cold War spies.
Yeah.
Right. If you're trying to go too gonzo with it, it does not fit. But what happens then is as a player, my character, I'm trying to be creative, perhaps a little gonzo creative, and you need to shut them down politely, or saying, well, perhaps not that far. You could have this other thing. It's not hot pink, it's gray, right? Not quite so crazy loud. It could be a step back.
Well, the one thing you could always say in that game is when you say, I forgot, strike, I think is the code, the word. You say strike, that's what happens. You shoot and you shoot somebody. And more than likely, unless they're a decent level NPC, you're going to kill them. And the thing is, that's the same as the Game Master. If I have an NPC that says strike and they shoot you, players have a better chance of surviving it. But it's not all that great. Like, it is lethal for the reason of the genre and the spirit of that game.
So if the creative thing I'm trying to do is outside the spirit of the game, genre setting, tone, all that stuff,
right?
Then a no but is in order, or a flat out. No, you can't fucking do that. I've gamed with you for 20 years, Sean. What the hell's wrong with you? You can't do that. I told you 1,000 times.
What's going to happen is your character is going to die.
Oh, I see.
So it's a yes, and your character dies.
So I try to do something I try to use my spring tube with poison darts, and you'd be like, no, dude, no, that doesn't work. You can't do that.
Where would you get them?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just the thing I would build. I mean, I've got technology skills, and
It's not. That's different game.
okay,
It's not Traveler, man.
no, fair enough.
Playing D&D, it's not Traveler.
Fair enough. And I think that it's interesting because it's when I think about limitations, like, with setting and so forth, like, okay, yeah, you can only have 4 basic races, 6 different classes to choose from. It's a city-based campaign. It's this, it's that. Okay, the house rules for, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool, I'm fine. And I had a guy in my Avalon campaign a number of years ago wanted to develop a scuba suit for whatever reason. And I looked at him and said, dude, that's not going to work. No, I think with, this blah, 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 my skill, and I should be able to figure this out. It's not, it really has nothing to do with the game. It doesn't fit the setting. I want to do it anyway. And he was like passionate about it. So at the time I said, okay.
Just have him do it, and then it takes on water.
So what I had him do was I said, this is your life's work then. This is your character's life's work.
Take him out of the game.
Is to create this thing. So if you want to step out of the game and do this, hardcore goes, no, I'll do it in my spare time. Okay, fine. Fine. You're working on it. This is your life's work. It's like some guy working, 9 to 5 in a coal mine in Wales, and who's also writing the next great novel in his spare time. Got it.
Right.
Your life's your magnum opus, spare time. Gotcha.
Right.
What was cute to me was every once in a while I'd be like, so am I done with that yet? No, it's been a week. I told you your life's work. When you retire your character, you'll finish this off. Oh, really? Yes, I was not kidding. If that's what I'm not adverse to you figuring that out and like being, gonzo interested in it. But that was the limitation I put on it, was like, you could try to do that, what I considered crazy ass thing / waste of time. But, no for now, and you could get it figured out eventually. That's your magnum opus.
Yes, and it will take you 50 years.
Yeah, that's a yes and or a no but type of thing. Okay, how about this? You want that? Then this is what it's got to be. So like a Cold War spy game, and you want to pull some crazy James Bondian something out of your hat, you're like, no, that's not how it works. If you could, get the CIA to get the funding, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, probably about, another 5 elections. You could probably get that started. Oh, wow, that's that kind of time. There you go. Moving on. But that's a limit. It's a limitation placed on player and character creativity. Right?
Yeah.
They want to do something that they think is a creative solution to whatever. We're using 2 odd examples, perhaps. But I want to solve a thing doing X.
Yeah.
And the answer is no, I have to put a limit on that. I can't let you be creative in that particular way because of the setting, the genre, the thing we're trying to do in this particular case. Or just within the game itself, the parameters, the spirit of, as you say, it doesn't fit.
Right.
And options are yes, but it will take you 50 years. Or you could totally do that if you only understood Newtonian physics and had a particle accelerator. Oh, yeah, I don't have either of those. Okay, what else are you going to do? All right, I'll come up with something different.
I'm in D&D, and I want to build a spaceship. Yeah. I don't think it comes up all that often, those drastic.
Not that drastic, but you have people, not people, I mean, I'm using it vaguely. I distinctly remember, granted, when you go back to when you're kids, and this is an interesting thing when you game with kids, they will come up with some wacky-ass solutions based on things that they have seen in movies, TV shows, books they've read, video games they've played. Oh, I want to do this thing. That's not how this game works, right? And you have to explain to somebody, you can't do that, but you can do this. Or to accomplish that, you'd have to be a 50th level mega mage from, Barsoon. Oh, well, I can't pull it off. No, you can't. Oh, all right. But it is, it's a piece that I think we do want to limit some of that stuff because it has a potential to, that to me is more game breaking in a way. It's almost like player induced genre breaking or balance crushing in some way. where somebody found out. I remember Monty Cook writing an article on Old Kobold magazine about somebody who was running a D&D game, and somebody cast water breathing on the red dragon. And the player smugly says, I'm paraphrasing, player sits back and smugly says, he can't breathe air, he dies. No save. And, that was the answer. And Monty Cook said, basically, okay, you little prick. Monty didn't say that, a much nicer guy. Monty Cook said, okay, fine. If you want to look it up and quote it chapter and verse to me, that's fine. But that is not how that spell was intended to be used. Therefore, I will rule that that doesn't work like that. It's not an offensive spell. You don't just get to beat. You don't win D&D because you use water breathing on a dragon. No.
That doesn't even make sense.
Well, the way the spell works is that you can breathe water. If you read it,
that doesn't mean you can't breathe oxygen, though.
The way the spell was written, if I remember correctly, and the way some people had interpreted it, is you cannot breathe oxygen.
Seriously?
Yes.
Oh, I never took it that way.
Yeah. So again, it depends on.
If you cast it, so you would have to be in water to cast it,
or you cast it and dive in the water.
Right. Well,
rapidly,
yeah,
really quick.
Sure.
So again, it's a way you interpret something. Somebody's trying to be creative. I think I have a solution for this huge dragon problem. Boom! I'm gonna cast water breathing. The dragon's fucking dead. There's no water. Ha ha ha. No, you smirking little jerk. That's not how this works. Type of thing. Now that's an extreme example, but those types of, it's a creative solution, right?
Well, it's like the stone to mud, mud to flesh, whatever, stone to flesh stuff.
Yep.
That combination. That's why some of those things were nerfed by concentration. Like one needs concentration, and if you disrupt the concentration of one.
That's how my group and I destroyed Lenny's Thrommel vampire from Return of Temple of Elemental Evil.
Stone to flesh.
It was rock to mud, back and forth, a couple of things. We basically beat him to a point where he had to go gaseous form. Then based on the initiative, he was then trapped in a sealed room which had no cracks. He could not eke his way out of it. And then because he couldn't get back to his coffin in time, he dies. We looked it up, ran it through. This is what happens when Lenny goes to put the kids to bed and leaves us an hour and a half to plan how to kill a vampire. But regardless, that type of creativity happens, right?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. Sometimes maybe I would just be like, all right. Hey, slow clap.
Good. You killed the dragon. Yay. You water breathed the dragon to death.
Yeah. It's done. Congratulations.
I do recall distinctly somebody pulling something like that on my high school DM, Eric. And Eric then going, okay, make a note. 2 adventures later, bam! Guess what party got hit with the same fucking thing?
Oh,
and then and what's good for the goose is good for the gander type of approach. Right. And then consternation.
You guys gave me good ideas.
Yeah, so that's the other component is turnabout being fair play and all. It when it comes back and lands on you, not so much fun. But anyway, that's excuse me, damn it. I mean, if everything is very boxed and very, very limited, and we tighten the reins on creativity during play or that type of thing, then it has a very can have a feeling of sameness and boredom and so on. And people coming up with creative ways to do different things is great. And this ties into the yes and no but, those conversations we've had in the past. And as I said, we've talked about creative spellcasting. But even when it's not that stuff, somebody you're playing in a genre that is at a certain time in a mythological or even real history, there are no stirrups, right? You ride horses, there's no fucking stirrups, which without stirrups, you cannot do a plethora of horse-ridey cool things. Just not going to happen, right? And if you're living within those world and setting and genre limitations, having the characters, even as a game master, banging against them or trying to push them in directions that they don't belong or that are potentially genre-setting, world balance-breaking or cracking, that's when the limitation within gameplay comes in for us. Is what how I'm summarizing for you and I. If I try to break your Cold War game by doing non-Cold War spy stuff, the answer is, well, you don't have the funding for that, or the only way you could get that type of high-end computer funding would be about six rounds of Democratic presidency followed by 2 rounds of this and blah, blah, blah. Good luck getting that orchestrated so that you can have this problem solved by next Friday. By outlining the difficulty of trying to do that thing. In games like that, it makes sense. The player often, at least in my experience, goes, oh, yeah, you're right. It doesn't fit. It is Cold War. You're right. Good point. Yeah, shit, I wish I could do that. And then they back down.
You just tell them no.
Just tell them no.
No.
And if they don't listen to that,
come on,
you just
man.
reach under your desk, pull out a hammer, put it on your table.
No. Just no.
Just no.
Just a big no. Sorry, you can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? No.
I said no.
No. Nope. That's what the game. Sometimes in games, man, it's kind of the deal. You're a game master. Some of the old school stuff, there's a conversation and a negotiation sometimes that takes place. So if somebody wants to try to do something, it's more of a question and an ask than anything. Like, hey, I want to be able to do this.
Can I do that?
Am I able to do that given my... And the reason they ask the question is because there may be things that are in front of their character that allow them to do that or don't allow them to do it. And most of the times, if you get a good game master, he or she wants you to succeed in a fashion that makes sense and doesn't get you squashed. Or if there's a risk, that you know of the risk ahead of time. And then you empower the character to assess that risk, and then they can take it or leave it.
That's really good, dude. That's seriously good. Because if we take it, some of the crazy-ass examples we had, instead of saying, hey, I read water breathing that works like this. Is that how you use it? Asking that question, and then having Monty Cook or Sean or Eileen or somebody go, no. It doesn't work like that. You can't use it as an offensive spell. Okay, thanks. That's a different approach than doing a thing and then demanding a result. Right?
Yeah.
Now,
in the same token, there are some cool shit. Like I did something in Doc's game, and he was like, no, you can't do that. I thought it was cool. And it wasn't, I don't think it was like crazy mind-bending. It had something to do with casting a spell, Misty Step, or something like that, where I was going to teleport myself to an area, like lead baddies to where I was, and then like teleport 30 feet away. And something wouldn't have allowed me to do it for some reason. And he was like, you can't do that, whatever. And I thought if I did it, it wasn't such a stretch, and then it would have been cool. But Doc's a rule. I don't want to call him a rules guy, but he knows the rules.
Well, how'd that make you feel, Sean? Were you upset?
I'm still in therapy.
No, seriously. How that? Were you like, oh?
I brushed it off,
okay,
because I'm like, all right, that's fine. It's not that big a deal. I just would have thought, hey, man, rule of cool, but we weren't playing rule of cool. Some GMs and DMs don't, they don't play by the rule of cool. I mean, they appreciate it when you come up with something cool, as long as it's abiding by the rules. But if it skitters on that border and maybe crosses over it, then it's maybe not something that they allow you to do. So everybody's got their own kind of thing.
True.
Right? While we're preaching this, there's people that are like, that's okay, that's not okay, that's okay. I could see that. Can't see that.
I think the biggest piece when it comes to any type of limitation, whether it's with character creation, splat books, what core rules we're using, any of that type of thing, even if we were to say, look, I'm only going to use monsters from these 3 books, or I'm only going to do this. I've never done anything like that. But even if you were whatever, or you say, look, it has to fit, and this is the genre and all that stuff. Excuse me, I think it's the... Shit, now I completely lost what I was going to say. It was pretty cool for a minute there, and it's totally gone now. Shit, fuck. I had it, and it's gone. Poof. Damn it. So I think it's that... Oh, consistency. There I am. Duh, lost it. That as long as...
Search, check, succeed.
Search, check, succeed. Thank you. Very good. So all that stuff up front, as long as... That's where I was going. As long as it's consistent, like I said, the rule drops down. Hey, everybody can use the Ultimate Mega Paladin book. Good, that's available to everybody. Consistency. And then if limitations are being done in-game, the killer, when it becomes a point of argument or potential frustration for everybody, is when somebody bumps up against something in the Cold War spy game, and they push that boundary a little bit, and the next person wants to push the same boundary about the same distance, and the other person shut down, but the previous person was allowed to. It's that.
Well, that's because I like certain players more than you, Brett.
That's a good point. I can see that. That's good.
Right.
Then lack of consistency is logical.
Right. I just like those players better.
Yeah. I like Doc. You're a dick, Brett. Well, you got me there. I can't. Love to argue with you, but I can't.
Remember that last time you game mastered and killed my guy?
Oh.
Well,
Hey, guess
that
what?
sucks that you just can't do that this game.
Payback, motherfucker. Nice. Lovely. So apart from Sean's personal grudges being held against me, I think that's a key piece, right, is the consistency aspect of it, which is, and everybody at the table, including your fellow players, can help maintain that consistency. I have had players at my table when somebody in the group says, hey, can I do this, or I think I'm going to try to do this, and Zave and Elf would be like, we tried to do something like that, at that other encounter, and it didn't work because it doesn't fit. I just don't think that fits the world. That's really not something you can do. There's no reason that players, either one way or the other, can argue for or against a thing, as long as you're helping to build a consistency of that world and the setting and so on. So I think that makes sense. That's when your limitations make sense, is if the limitations are consistent. And then everybody it's hard you can't come up with a complete list of all the limitations. Like, of all the spells available in GURPS Magic, good fucking luck going through all of those and figuring it out, is like, all of them will operate in these particular ways. That's tough. That's tough to do. And that's, why a game like Cold Shadows, like you said, it's very tied and specific, and a very specific type of experience. You can't push it as hard as you would like a basic role-playing, a GURPS or a Savage Worlds or something that's more of a toolbox game, right? It's not built to do certain things. It's only built to do a specific thing. So, again, perhaps a bad example from a system perspective. Interesting. Anything else, man?
Yeah. No, we should move on.
I think we should move on. That was interesting to me. I hope it was interesting to other people. If you like it or have thoughts about it, let us know.
All right.
Let's go.
Yeah, chime in. Let us know. Hey, roll.
All right. I have two. Eloy Lasanta from Third Eye Games, friend of the show. Good dude all around. Hell of a game designer. He's going to be launching Part-Time Gods 2nd edition this year. I don't have the full details on dates, but he was kind enough to give Sean and I a little sneak peek into what he's got cooking, and I like what I'm seeing so far. So we'll keep in touch with Eloy and see how things go. Once that Kickstarter hits, we'll definitely let everybody on the show know. Eloy is one of those guys that when he launches a Kickstarter, he knows how to do it, much like the PIP system that we talked about last year. When that stuff works, hey, if it's Eloy, it's going to work, so it's good stuff. The other one I have, speaking of cool things coming, is the Queen City Conquest. They have they do a Kickstarter every year to fund their stuff. That Kickstarter, they just had their little launch party. Link in the show notes to Queen City Conquest. That's our buddy Sean Gilgore and Chris Sneezak and Phil Vecchione, Bob Everson, the Misdirected Marker, everybody out in that area in Buffalo. It's a good con. I've been there before. If I'm lucky, I can pull it off this year. I don't know yet. But anyway, check it out. Another good convention in that area. John?
Yeah, some findings and news. Rick and Morty D&D miniseries. So if you're fans of the Rick and Morty animation cartoon, they're going to do a D&D small miniseries tied to D&D. And there's going to have some help from Patrick Rothfuss.
Oh.
Coming August 2018, amongst other individuals involved in that project. You can check that out. Link in the show notes.
Nice.
Second one, 55 Nights. That's what it took to film the biggest battle scene in Game of Thrones.
Wow.
55 Nights. That's a lot of shooting.
Wow. That's that's intense. That's insane.
Yeah.
I don't think... Wow. That's crazy big. Wow.
Right.
Neat.
And if you're living under a rock,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you just listen to podcasts and you don't get online or anything else, but just listen to podcasts, as you probably know, Amazon Prime TV is going to be producing Lord of the Rings.
I heard about that, and
Yeah.
my initial reaction was, I don't know. I'm a Tolkien guy, so I'm like, I've got Amazon Prime. I'm going to have to check it out and see if it's any good. I'm curious as to, I don't know enough about it. Sean, are they just rebuilding the trilogy again, or what are they doing? What is the madness?
Apparently, it's a multi-season show set in Middle-earth.
Okay.
So that's the deal. Like, it's going to be set in Tolkien's world. And they're talking about spending $1 billion on the show over the course of the 5 seasons.
That's a lot of money.
You could do some good shit with $1 billion. You could also do a lot of bad shit with $1 billion.
Oh, look at the government. We get piss away $1 billion like that.
That's fair, yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Because I mean, if I were in charge, I would do it post-war, right?
I don't know.
That would be kind of cool. Or there's plenty of time in between the war, right? From the time when Bilbo comes back with the ring up until, spoilers, up until the time where Frodo leaves, spoilers again, there's a lot of years in there. And then plus after the ring and even ages before, good Lord, there's lots of stuff. Wow, interesting. I'll probably have to check it out.
So it's reported that production will begin 2019. There's also mentioned in the article that Amazon's show might include material from Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings and Hobbit trilogies, and that it must go into production within 2 years.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Huh.
Hey, you know what I got to say? Game of Thrones, man. They got everybody a buzz. Them and Vikings and all the other ones that want to come up with something.
Yeah, especially when they started doing stuff where they went, wow, you can have, well, it's like the Marvel TV series on Netflix. Once these environments get to have, well, Sopranos and all this, hey, this works. You can have this really kick-ass thing in these environments. So that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
It's golden age of gaming, man. Golden age of gaming.
Yeah, it's something, that's for sure. So, yeah, that's all. Well, excuse me, that's all we had for Die Roll. What are we talking about next week, Brett?
Well, Blake Ryan gave us an idea via an email out to us and was asking about using creatures across games. You know, perhaps even settings, game systems, and so forth. This is the thing I've done in the past, where you take something from one game system and then you smash it into another one as a touch of something familiar and so on. So don't want to wreck it all now, but that's what we're going to talk about.
Well, excellent. I can't wait.
It'll be good.
Excellent. All right, so that's been another episode of Gaming in BS. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.
This episode of Gaming in BS brought to you with the help from the following BSers. Kevin Lovecraft, Joe Sweat, starting off really well on this one. Kevin Lovecraft, Joe Swick, Brett's biggest fan, Forrest Gary, Mark Anthony Benedetti, Eric Jeppesen, Sean Nicholson, Tim Jensen, Palladian, Remy Bellodo, Jason Hobbs, Wayne Humfleet, James Carpio, Pure Mongrel, Lord Tentacle, Corey Johnston, Brandon Barnes, Dan LaValle, C.W. Mellencamp, The Lost Sailor, Misdirected Mark Productions, Christopher Gray, Finnolf, Mirko Froelich, Eileen Barnes, Tony Sugarloaf Baker, Todd Crapper, Michael Drescher, Alexander Auerbach, Neil Benson, Chris Steele, Eric the Hoffman, Soldiers of Misfortune RPG, Christopher Lang, Curtis Takahashi, Mark Tasaka, Larry Hout, Ray Otis, Ron Bishop, Craig Huber, Xavier G, JV, John Hammersley, The Closet Gamer, John Steve, Jared Rasher, Mark Richmond, Thomas Hook, Blake Ryan, Chad Glayman, Sky, Roger Braslett, Evan Harrison Cass, Craig, Howard Bishop, Jim Fitzpatrick, Peter Skanes, Knights of the Night Crew, Josh Wallace, Corey Welch, Eli Kurtz, Pateri Turtienen, Edwin Nagy, Bruce Cunnington, Aaron Coleman, Tim Short, Stefan Dragonspawn. Oh, man, I always get this one messed up. Aonagus, Roll for Guild, Gordon Cranford, Andy Hall, Corey Wynn, and Graham Meinert. For ways to support the show, head over to gamingbs.com/support-us. Thanks, BSers!
This has been a Litterbox Studio production.